Okay, for the next 45 minutes or so, I need to do the last segment on a news blitz because there's just so much I haven't gotten to, but this is a big issue. A secret NATO country, it's in all the NATO countries. It isn't in other countries that aren't NATO controlled, we've noticed. The Anglo-American establishment nations, huge aerosol spraying weather modification program, but that's only one part of it. And now they're coming out with more and more of it. In fact, did you guys find Aaron's big blue folder with all the documentation? Well, let's call him and get him up here. I know he worked till about midnight last night because I meant to have that today. I'll have to run back and get in his file cabinets during the break because I want to show you just some of the patents and the admissions. We'll also take a few calls before they leave us on chemtrail specifically, 1-800-259-9231. But Michael J. Murphy, again, is a journalist and filmmaker, and he's produced this film, What in the World Are They Spraying?, available at Infowars.com with G-Edward-Griffin. Michael, tell us about much of the film. I mean, I've seen it. It's excellent. As much of the film as you want to give away, and really the big discovery here that, well, about old Monsanto. They're rearing their ugly head again, aren't they?
That's right, with the GMO seed. But Paul Winterberger, as well, is involved with the film. We brought him onto the project, and he did a great job. But essentially, our investigation into these programs started at the American Association for the Advancement of Science conference, where geoengineers proposed spraying 10 to 20 million tons of toxic aluminum into the sky for what they call was the stated goal to cool the planet. So after that meeting, when they're coming out publicly addressing this issue and essentially selling it to the public in denial that these programs have been already implemented, but what they're saying is that they're looking at these. However, we went around literally over to Europe, over to several different states here in America, and we researched tests which revealed extremely high levels of aluminum, barium, strontium, the areas where they've been finding these tests in the rain, snow, and soil. They've also been finding major declines in the forest and in the crops that are producing, because as the scientists that we spoke to, aluminum, barium, and strontium will increase the pH of soil. So, for instance, in Northern California, they have seen at a bare minimum 10 times the increase in the alkalinity in their soils. And the scientists up there believe that this is a direct result of the spraying of aluminum, barium, and strontium. What a lot of people believe these programs are in part, obviously it's a multi-agenda operation, but they believe, speaking about this new GMO seed, that it could be an attempt to kill off anything that's natural and organic, because there is a new GMO aluminum-resistant seed that has been manufactured that will thrive in a high aluminum soil.
Oh, don't worry. You know, all these major croplands have been poisoned and normal natural plants won't grow in it. But Monsanto's got a whole new seed line, corn, wheat, whatever it is, canola, soybeans. It's all being developed. It's all being patented. We've got stuff that'll grow when nothing else will. Oh, you notice your trees all over central Texas are dying. Oh, on the California coast they're dying. And arborists and plant experts are testing it and saying it's aluminum, and they're dying in Hawaii. But don't worry, Monsanto's not just developing major food crops now. They're coming out with GMO palm trees. They're going to come out with the tea tree oil. They've got it all for you. Isn't that sweet of them?
Very true, and that's a concern for many of us. And we also filmed for a week on a remote part of the island in Maui, Hawaii, and I know that you saw the film, Alex, but for a week, Paul and I stayed on this little organic farm, and we ate off of the land. You know, we'd go out and pick our lunch literally off of the trees and make food. And a growing concern on that part of the island is, I really admire the way that people there live, because they were free. They didn't have to exchange money to eat.
Oh, well, S510 would end that, because you're not allowed to even grow and eat your own food under that.
And that's just one part of it, yeah, and that's very scary to many of us who are aware of that. But they're concerned that not only with the new legislation, this might be an attempt just to kill off anything that's on their land. And, I couldn't help but to look forward and say, what is this going to be like in 10 years? Are the people that live here going to have to go to a corporation for a corporate seed? And what are the requirements for that? Will they have to get licensed? Will they have to pass certain exams? What will be the taxes?
And we know the honeybees are dying all over the Western world in NATO countries mainly. We know that a lot of crops are having trouble. You guys interviewed scientists and others who would go into streams and, talk about how just 10 years ago it was full of, all sorts of life, but now it's dead. And what do they find? Loving aluminum.
Yes, and in major quantities. And, I'd like to bring to light a test which was taken on Mount Shasta. And as a baseline, about 7 years ago, they took a snow test, and it revealed 7 parts per billion aluminum, also barium and strontium at much lower levels. However, 1 year ago, Francis Mangels, who is a retired USDA biologist, took another test. And I just want to throw this out there. How high do you think that test was after...
it was 60 parts per billion, or 60 times the safe level.
60,000, I think. I already gave that away, Michael, in a previous
Excuse
segment.
me, it wasn't 60? It was give us those numbers.
It was 61,100 parts per billion.
Oh, excuse me. So it was just, how many times over the safe level is that?
That's over 61 times the safe level established for drinking water. And people are climbing that mountain, and they're using the snow to hydrate.
And by the way, you have a clip in the film of a local newscast in Washington State with the guy going, look, I was in the military. This is some kind of military spraying of aluminum here, not just chaff, more than that. And there you have the newscast in the very area where you're finding the aluminum in high levels, and you've got the newscaster saying, look at this. This is not a natural weather system.
Exactly. And there are literally, this has been on the corporate mainstream media, just not at the level of attention that we believe that it deserves. It's been covered a little bit here, a little bit there. But, something so damaging. I mean, aluminum is so toxic to ecosystems, but also we interviewed a lot of physicians and healthcare professionals, and they said aluminum is extremely toxic to human health. And we've seen... in a 10-year period in L.A. County, we've seen over 200% increase in Alzheimer's, and at the same time, worldwide, we're seeing an incredible increase in aluminum-related illness.
Well, we're now seeing early onset and even youth, people 25, 30, getting Alzheimer-like symptoms, and then we've had top brain scientists on, like Dr. Blaylock, Russell Blaylock, and they're just seeing it across the board, not just the tin cans we're drinking out of that are coated in bisphenol A that's bad enough. I mean, this is incredible. This is so big, and it's out in the open now. More and more it's coming out in the open. Give us your breakdown on all of this, g-edward-griffin, and the discovery of Monsanto developing these aluminum-resistant seeds.
Well, I certainly have to go along with the general observation that corporations like Monsanto, they're certainly not the only ones in the field. They have buildings full of scientists and marketing experts who are looking for ways to make money using, their expertise, which is geoengineering. So naturally, we know that they have to be looking at this just from a pure business point of view.
Well, they admit they are.
Yeah, they admit they are. They brag about it, and they tell their stockholders that's what they're doing, and that's on the basis of how they pay dividends and all that sort of thing. I do say, however, that we have to be a little cautious when we talk about this, because these people are not dumb, and what the information they reveal, even in their patents, may not be trustworthy. Because, for example, now I don't want to get too deeply into this, but just to give you an idea of the pitfalls and the minefields that are out there for us, I've been talking with a biochemist recently that's said, well, the kind of aluminum that is in the patent that we're talking about is an aluminum which, believe it or not, is considered to be acidic. Depending on the molecular form of it, there is a form of aluminum that is acidic. At least it's more acidic than other forms, which are clearly in the alkaline range. And he said that if they sprayed that on the soil, it would have the effect of actually preserving the acidic quality of the soil rather than making it alkaline. I said, how can that be? Well, he explained it to me, and he convinced me. He's a scientist. He's a PhD guy. This has been his life work. And I said, oh, I see, because of the cations or the little electron connections, it measures as more acidic. That's right. So we both concluded that, well, that means that what they're spraying may not be what they patented for. It may be something else.
Oh, absolutely. There's hundreds of patents. In fact, I'll show listeners this right here. This is just one of the folders of our research for our chemtrail film. And we know it's a whole bunch of different programs and operations. But here's the $64 million question then to both of you. What type of aluminum do they find on Mount Shasta?
Well, they didn't test for any specific type of aluminum. However, getting back to the patents, I've spoken to a lot of scientists as well. In the concern, while everything that Ed says is truly correct, aluminum can easily be activated because it's a very complex metal. So, while Ed is 100% correct with what he says, there's still that doubt because they are spraying aluminum and it can be activated very easily. So, we don't want to completely rule that out. However, it is something that we're careful
that's the only thing. We just have to be careful. And I might add, just to finish this out, that this fellow I was talking to said, well, there's another aspect to this that has nothing to do with pH. I said, what? Wow, what could that be? He said, well, he said all forms of aluminum tend to inhibit the ability of a plant to uptake moisture. So maybe we're looking at the wrong thing at this pH level. Any form of aluminum will inhibit the plant's ability to uptake moisture. And that's the reason that these seeds have to be genetically modified to deal with the moisture question, not necessarily the pH question. So it gets complicated.
Look, regardless, they've covered up the program. We know the program's real.